The wind howled through the Montana mountains like a wounded beast, rattling the thick log walls of the cabin that had been Elias Vance's only companion for 15 winters. He sat by the stone fireplace, carving another wooden figure with hands that knew no other purpose than work. The flames cast dancing shadows across his weathered face, highlighting the deep lines etched by grief and solitude. At 39, Elias looked older. He'd stopped caring about appearances the day he buried Sarah and their unborn child in the Kansas prairie. That was another lifetime, another man, one who believed in God's mercy and the promise of tomorrow. The cabin measured no more than 20 ft square, a fortress against memory built with his own hands. Every notch spoke of desperate determination. Below, the main room held only necessities, including his rifles mounted on pegs above the door. Through the single window, Elias watched the December snow fall thick and relentless. The year was 1879, and time meant nothing when each day bled into the next with the same hollow rhythm. Wake, work, eat, sleep, and try not to dream. His horse, Onyx, shifted restlessly in the lean-to stable. The big black stallion was the only living creature Elias trusted, the only one who never demanded explanations for the nightmares. Elias set down his carving, another wolf, always wolves, and stirred the pot of venison stew. Living this high in the mountains meant self-sufficiency or death. The nearest town, Stone Creek, lay 2 days' ride. The townspeople called him the recluse of Sentinel Peak and crossed themselves when he appeared. He didn't care. He carried the fundamental truth like a stone in his chest. Caring for someone meant watching them die. Love was just another word for inevitable loss. Sarah's face haunted him still. He remembered with perfect clarity the moment life drained from her eyes. The frontier doctor had arrived too late. That night, he'd burned their little homestead to ash and ridden west until the mountains swallowed him whole. Here, he'd built a life stripped of anything that might betray him again. Outside, the storm intensified. Elias checked on Onyx. The cold hit him like a physical blow. This storm felt different, angrier, an old-timer's widow-maker. As Elias secured the stable door, he paused, listening. The blizzard carried menace, the promise of tragedy for anyone exposed. He returned to the cabin, adding another log to the fire. He just carved his wolves and waited for the storm to pass. This was his life now. Simple, predictable, safe. It wasn't happiness, but it was survival. The storm raged through the night. By dawn, the howling subsided, leaving a world transformed by deep snow. Onyx's anxious whinny drew Elias out. He saddled the horse, strapped on snowshoes, and descended slowly. He'd hunted these slopes for 15 years, memorizing every contour. An hour into the descent, Onyx stopped abruptly. Elias dismounted. What he found made his blood run cold. A stagecoach lay on its side, the horses frozen solid, the driver dead. The coach's position suggested it had been driven off the road at speed, as if fleeing something. A sound, barely audible, made him freeze. He followed it to a drift piled against a boulder. Digging frantically, he uncovered her. Adeline Sterling, a woman in expensive soaked city clothes. He pressed 2 fingers to her throat, expecting nothing. Then, impossible but undeniable, a pulse barely there. He should leave her. Nothing good came from involvement. But his hands were already lifting her, cradling her against his chest. She weighed nothing. Adeline was young, with fine features, the kind of woman who'd never known hard labor. The ride back was a race against time. Elias shared his warmth, urging Onyx through deep drifts. By the time they reached the cabin, Elias laid her before the hearth. Wet clothes would kill her. His hands shook as he methodically stripped away the layers of sodden garments until she lay in only her soaked shift. He wrapped her in a thick buffalo robe and built up the fire until it roared. Her clothes steamed on pegs, filling the air with the scent of wet wool and perfume, ghost scents from another world. The woman hadn't stirred. Elias sat back, aware he had broken his cardinal rule. If she lived, she would demand conversation and comfort, disrupting his solitude. But her life lay in his hands. Hours passed. Near sunset, she stirred. A soft moan escaped her lips. Then her eyes opened, green, the color of spring leaves. Her gaze found him, and the confusion sharpened into terror. She screamed, scrambling back until she hit the wall, clutching the robe. "Don't touch me! What have you— Where am I?" "You're safe," Elias said, his voice rusty. "There was an accident. Your coach crashed. Everyone else is dead." The words penetrated her panic. Everyone. The hysteria faded. Mr. Hartley, Mrs. Peaton, little James. Her face crumpled, and she began to sob. Raw, ugly sobs. Elias stood helpless, watching her world shatter. When the tears passed, she wiped her face. "I apologize for my outburst. You saved my life." "You needed saving," he said simply. "I'm Adeline Sterling of New York, and you are Elias Vance?" He nodded. "How long until we can reach town?" Adeline asked, trying for a businesslike tone. "Storm's not done. Could be days. Could be a week." "A week? Surely you exaggerate." "This is Montana," he corrected. "Storms here don't care what year it is." She absorbed the reality. No rescue, no solutions, just a strange man's cabin and the indifferent wilderness. "Then I suppose," she said with forced calm, "we'll have to make the best of an impossible situation." Elias nodded, already regretting his weakness. The first night tested every boundary. Adeline sat rigid by the fire, while Elias busied himself. She demanded her clothes. "Still wet," he replied. He gave her an old flannel shirt and wool trousers. "Thank you," she said stiffly, though I fail to understand why a simple rescue requires such primitive arrangements. "You fail to understand a lot of things," Elias shot back, starting with the fact that you're lucky to be breathing. "Why were you on that coach?" he asked, breaking another rule. "Going to San Francisco. I have an aunt there." She closed off. Later, Adeline grew reflective. "My fiancé, Arthur Richmond, a business arrangement. The wedding was scheduled for next month. I ran like a thief in the night. I thought I could disappear, become someone else." "And you? Who were you before?" "Someone who learned better." The dynamic shifted. Adeline helped prepare dinner, surprisingly adept. She admired the wooden wolves. "Could you teach me?" she asked. "I need something to occupy my hands, Mr. Vance. Idleness makes me think too much." He conceded. They spent the evening by the fire, Elias showing her how to carve. Her first attempt resembled a cat. "It's terrible," she laughed. "It's a start," Elias replied, fighting a smile. Later, Adeline paused on the ladder. "Mr. Vance, do you ever regret it? Choosing isolation?" "Regrets are for people who think they had better choices." Elias lay by the dying fire, every sound from the loft reminding him of the intruder. He planned to take her to Stone Creek when the storm broke. His world would return to emptiness. But the thought of never hearing her laugh felt like contemplating a second death. The storm stretched into its fifth day. Adeline abandoned propriety, moving in his clothes with increasing confidence. She insisted he teach her to split wood. Her first swings were awkward, but she persisted until she split a piece clean through. "I did it," she beamed. Later, Elias discovered the food stores were critically low. "Can we hunt?" Adeline asked. "My presence caused this problem. I should help solve it." "Tomorrow," he conceded, impressed by her practical courage. That evening, over meager supper, Adeline asked about the coat. "My wife, Sarah, 15 years, 2 months, 11 days. He stood abruptly, needing distance. When he returned, Adeline sat carving. He reached over to guide her hand, and their fingers touched. The knife slipped, nicking her thumb. Elias caught her hand, cleaning and bandaging the wound. They sat frozen, her hand cradled in his. Adeline's green eyes met his, and something electric passed between them. Elias dropped her hand as if burned. The next morning, the weather broke. Elias took Adeline to check the trap lines. She proved an attentive student. When they found a rabbit, she steeled herself. After dispatching the animal, she stood, staring. "I know it's necessary," she said quietly, "but I don't think I'll ever find it easy." "The moment it becomes easy is the moment you lose something human," Elias told her. As they walked back, Adeline slipped. Elias caught her, his arms wrapped around her waist. They stood pressed together. "Elias," she breathed. The sound broke his paralysis. He stepped, back roughly. "Storm's coming back. We need to move." That night, the cabin felt too small. The air crackled with unspoken tension. "I should check the stage road tomorrow," Elias said abruptly. Of course. You must be eager to reclaim your solitude. Adeline's voice held an edge. Miss Sterling, she corrected sharply, we should maintain appropriate boundaries, don't you think? Elias sat by the fire, carving with vicious strokes. The thought of returning to his empty existence was now a terror. From the loft came muffled crying. Elias climbed the ladder. Adeline, what's wrong? Everything. I'm trapped in a cabin with a man who saved my life, but can barely stand to look at me. I don't even know who I am anymore. You're not trapped, he said softly, and I can look at you just fine. That's the problem. She stared at him. Elias, I know. He sat near the mattress. I know all the reasons this is foolish, but you're not alone, Adeline. Not while you're here. She reached out. He let her take his hand. The next morning, Adeline wouldn't meet his eyes. About last night. Nothing happened, she said. Agreed, Elias replied, disappointment settling in his chest. By midday, the tension erupted. Stop staring, Adeline snapped. You're terrified of feeling alive again. You don't know anything about it, Elias growled. Then tell me about Sarah. The name broke him. She was 19. The baby came early. The doctor was drunk. She bled. Baby died first. Sarah held on just long enough to make me promise I'd live. He choked out the words. I buried them in the same coffin. That night I burned everything. Rode west until I found somewhere the memories couldn't follow. But they did follow, Adeline said softly. So now you know why I can't, why we can't. Adeline moved closer. I understand fear, Elias. I've been running from my own for months, but at some point we have to stop running. She touched his face. You saved my life, not just from the snow, from a different kind of death. Adeline, I can't control myself around you. Don't you understand? You're already half in love with me, Elias Vance, just as I'm half in love with you. The only question is whether we're brave enough to admit it. The truth shattered his last defenses. Elias pulled her against him. Their lips met in a kiss that was 15 years of loneliness, seeking solace. This changes everything, Elias said roughly. Everything's already changed, Adeline affirmed. I want you to stay, Elias said, raw with need. But this life, it's hard. No pretense, she finished. No suffocating expectations, just us. I choose you. All right, he conceded. We take it slow. But if you still want this, I'll still want you. They spent the day in stolen kisses. That night, Adeline didn't climb to the loft alone. They lay together, fully clothed, but pressed close. I'm scared too, Adeline whispered. What if I'm not strong enough? You survived a coach crash that killed everyone else. You're the strongest woman I've ever known. The second strongest? Sarah sounds like she was remarkable. She was. They fell asleep wrapped around each other. Elias woke near dawn to find Adeline watching him. You're not a ghost anymore, she said. Ghosts can't love. And you, Elias Vance, are very much capable of love. Yours, he agreed, sealing the word with a kiss that tasted like new beginnings. The peace lasted 3 days. Then Onyx's warning whinny alerted Elias to 3 approaching riders. Riders, 3 of them, Elias confirmed. You stay hidden. No, Adeline said, moving to the second rifle. 3 men approaching our home with unclear intentions. I'm not hiding like a child. Elias realized the lead rider was Arthur Richmond. He has judges and lawmen in his pocket. He doesn't own Montana, Elias said, stepping outside. Richmond dismounted, cold blue eyes assessing Elias. I've come to recover stolen property. I have new warrants drawn up for Elias Vance, formerly of Kansas, wanted for questioning in connection with a fire that killed 2 people 15 years ago. Those 2 people were my wife and child. Richmond smiled. Adeline is my fiancée. She's confused. I'm here to take her home. Without her, her family faces ruin. Adeline stepped out. My sisters are better off in the streets than sold to men like you, Arthur. Richmond's mask slipped. You'll come with me, or I'll have Mr. Vance arrested for kidnapping. Try it, Elias challenged. Richmond ordered his men to take her. Gunfire shattered the silence. Elias shot 1 gunman. Adeline shot the pistol out of Richmond's hand. She stood steady, rifle smoking. The next one goes in your chest, Arthur, she said. You threatened the man I love. Richmond looked stunned. You'd throw away everything for that? I choose love over that, every time. Adeline threatened to expose Richmond's abuses and corruption to the New York papers, bluffing about a diary. I've learned to fight. I'm stronger than you ever imagined. Richmond, terrified of scandal, ordered his men to retreat. You'll regret this when you're old and broken from hard living. I already have everything, Adeline replied. Everything that matters. Elias caught Adeline as her knees buckled. You did good. I shot him, she whispered. You protected us, protected our home. The wounded gunman, Briggs, confirmed Richmond's family had forged the warrants to use against Elias. Adeline tended his wound. Elias rode partway to Stone Creek with the gunman, ensuring they spoke to the sheriff. I love you, Elias said, the words certain. I know. Now, let's go home and figure out what comes next. 2 weeks later, Elias and Adeline were married in Stone Creek. Adeline wore a simple dress and flowers. Elias, trimmed and civilized, exchanged vows. When his turn came, his voice was caught with emotion. He knew happiness was fragile, but some risks were worth taking. I do, he said, and meant it with every scarred piece of his heart. They returned to the cabin to find the townspeople had transformed it with gifts, a quilt, curtains, preserves. They barely know me, Adeline marveled. They know you make me whole, Elias said. In small towns, that's enough. That night, Adeline asked, Any regrets? Only that I can't give you the life you were born to. I was born to be here with you. Everything else was just marking time. 1 year later, in spring 1880, Adeline stood in the doorway of their new, larger cabin, her hand resting on her rounded belly. Elias was gentling a young mare in the corral, the start of their horse operation. Adeline taught reading lessons in the old cabin. A letter arrived. Arthur Richmond had fled to Europe to escape prosecution, and Adeline's family debts were anonymously paid, Elias's doing. Sheriff Cobb confirmed Elias's old Kansas case was officially closed. The last shadow was lifted. They stood overlooking the valley. Never thought I'd be here, Elias said. Regrets, Adeline teased. Only that I wasted so many years. But maybe I needed those years to be ready for this, for you. If I'd met you in New York, I would have seen only the surface. Instead, I saw home. They decided on names for their child, Samuel for a boy, or Sarah Adeline for a girl. The mountain man and the city woman, no longer running but walking together. Love was chosen, fought for, and perfect. The Vance family dreamed of all the seasons yet to come.